I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on linear functions and linear equations. We'll consider modeling with algebra. Linear equations is the foundation for algebra, and understanding how to solve word problems will actually help you to succeed in mathematics at most of the levels. Now, in this particular video, we'll take up 10 questions. Some of them will be multiple choice and some will be open response. That is the trend these days. So we'll follow the trend. Let us look into the type of questions which I have considered. Now you can always pause the video, try them out in between. We are going to take solution of these questions one by one after looking at what we have to offer. Right? So have a good look at these questions as I move along. You need calculator to solve these questions. Some of them will need calculations. So calculator is allowed. Remember that. Most of the questions may not need it, but some will definitely need calculator. So these are the multiple choice questions which I am sharing with you. You can always pause, solve them. We'll get back to them one by one. Now, the last 4 questions here are open response. You need to explain how you get your answer and follow all these steps. Now, with this open response type of questions, you may have to draw rough sketches that will help you to solve the questions. I've also given you multiple choice here, but truly speaking, follow the steps, try to show all your work, and then get your answer. Okay? So that is the whole idea. So I hope you have had a good look at the variety which we have, and this variety will really help you to get started with any question on linear equations. I hope it makes sense. So now let's begin with the solution of the very first question. Now, before I provide you with the solution, let us learn what are we offering. Now here, I'm not just offering you solution of these questions. We'll actually understand the strategy to solve, right? So that is very important. Then, there could have been, many methods. So we may also look into alternate methods. And we'll actually have a very scientific approach while solving. So it'll always be a good idea to check your result. Right? So that's the kind of method which we are going to apply to solve these questions. We are not in a rush to, compete in any exam so that we have to do it within a minute or so. So the idea here is to basically lay a good foundation, right? So this video could be an hour long. You can always take a break in between and then start from wherever you have left. Okay, so the question here is, the sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 57. Find their product. Now, a few terms to look into, especially the one which says consecutive odd integers. What does that mean? Right? So the integers like 3, 5, 7, these are all odd numbers and they are consecutive. They come one after the other. So we are referring to such odd integers. Now we want sum of 3 of such odd numbers. That means we need to define a variable. So we'll begin with the let statement. Now in the let statement, what could be these 3 odd integers? Well, we could also say let them be n plus 2, and n plus 4, right? So skip by 1. So that is how we could say, and we could define our 3 consecutive odd integers. Perfect. Now here, the strategy is that you could also do an alternate. The alternate which we are going to follow in the solution is that our integers will be defined as, we define the center integer, which is n. And then we could say, well, the one to the right is 2 greater and one to the left is 2 lesser. So do you see that shift? Now immediately, we have actually reduced the difficulty level of the question by a large extent. Do you see that? How? Let us try to see what happens when we work with the new set of integers which we have just defined. the question here is, the sum of three consecutive odd integers is 57. So if I add them all, which is n minus 2 plus n plus 2, that is the sum, right? Sum of this is equal to 57. Now, if you add them, this minus 2 and plus 2, when you add, it becomes 0. You are left with just 3n. So you say 3n is equal to 57, right? So n is 57 divided by 3, right? So we get the value of n as 3 times 1, 27, 19. Once you get your answer, then you say the consecutive odd integers are what? 19 is in the center, then we have 21 and 17. So these are our three integers. Did you see how by changing a shift in our thinking, we could actually simplify the question? Perfect. So, and you get your answer, which is just the three integers. But you have to read your questions properly. Fortunately, it is a multiple choice question. Nothing matches. So what you find here is find their product. So we have to look into the product. Product means what? Product means you need to multiply them, right? 17 times 19 times 21. Now these are not the decimals. They are multiplication symbols, right? So we might use dots to multiply. We might use brackets to multiply. So these are different things which we might use. And now ultimately calculator, right? Times 21 gives us what? So when you multiply these three numbers, you get 6783. Now some of you will say, well, calculator is not allowed. In that case, what to do? If calculator is not allowed, you need to estimate, right? You need to estimate, correct? So you could round and say 20 times 15. You could do something like this and get your answer. You get my idea, right? So if calculator is not allowed, you can estimate. Perfect. Well, that is one method we talked about, and we have also learned a great strategy here. And we now look into the alternate method. What could be our alternate method? Well, when we are talking about consecutive odd integers sum as 57, we could be reminded of average value, right? So think about average. So what is average? If, the sum is 57, when you add three numbers, then the center number times 3 should be equal to 57. Does make sense to you? Right? So since it is the average. So what you could say is that the middle number n should be equal to 57 divided by 3. Since there are three numbers and the sum is 57, think about the concept of average. And then you get your center number, which is 57 by 3, similar to what we got earlier. Right? Now in a multiple choice, when time is critical, this is the strategy to be applied. And you get your number as 19, and so you know the numbers are 17, 19 and 21. To get the answer, just multiply them. You get the idea, right? So this time I'm writing it in brackets. So that is our strategy for a multiple choice test question. So I hope you understand and appreciate how we have solved the very first question. Perfect. Now check your result is very good. Since we reached here, we found three numbers. It wasn't matching. So, something is, yeah. So we looked into the later half of our question and we found that we need to find the product. And that is how you get to the right answer. Many times, if the multiple choice is not there, you might miss the right answer. Now let's look into question number 2. A square has sides of length 2x minus 1. An equilateral triangle has the sides of length 3x minus 2. Find the area of the square round to the nearest integer if the perimeter of the two polygons is same. So let's make the two polygons, right? So no rush, correct? So we'll see how to rush later. First, we'll understand how to solve the equation, right? That is the strategy. We are now looking into a square, means all four equal sides. Each length is 2x minus 1. Perfect. And then we have an equilateral triangle, okay? So that is also equal sides, But this polygon has only 3 sides. So a triangle. So that is our triangle. 3 equal sides. Each side is 3x minus 2. Find the area of the square. We need to find area of this square, right? Round to nearest integer if the perimeter of the two polygons is same. Now what is the meaning of perimeter? Well, sum of all the sides, correct? So basically, now we need to equate sum of all sides. So that is a part of our strategy. So the strategy here is to really lay out what is given to you, right? And then we can begin with our solution, correct? So the solution here is, what should be the perimeter? We have 4 equal sides, so the perimeter for the square is 4 times 2x minus 1, and that for the triangle should be 3 times 3x minus 2. They are equal. Let's find what x is, right? So open the bracket. So we get 8x minus 4 equals to 9x minus 6. Bring the like terms together. We get 6 minus 4 equals to 9x minus 8x, or the value of x is 2. So we now know that the value of x is 2. Correct? So if the value of x is 2, what are the sides of the square? Since we need to find what area of the square, right? So we still have the value of x, but we don't have the side length. So now we'll say side length. Square is how much? Substitute 2 there. So we get 2 times 2 minus 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. So the area has to be equal to 3 square, right? And 3 square is 9. So that is what we get as our solution. Does it make sense to you? Correct? So the question might look very simple, but it's very tricky. There are so many things which you need to consider before getting to the final solution. I hope it makes sense. Let's move on and take the next question now. Question number 3. Rectangle has a perimeter of 32a plus 4b and the width of 7a minus 3b. Determine the polynomial expression for the length of the rectangle, right? So we have used the word polynomial expression, which are like given here, right? So here is your rectangle, perimeter is given to you, width is given to you, we need to find length. Now what is perimeter equals to? For a rectangle, it is twice length plus twice width, right? So that is what perimeter is. So in our case, we are given the perimeter, so we can write 32a plus 4b on the left side, that is the perimeter p, right? And the width is given to us as 7a, we need to find length, so it is 2 times length plus 2 times width, which is 7a minus 3b. Right. Now, we can bring the like terms together and solve. We can do one more thing, that is to say, we see that 2 is common in all, right? So we do see that 2 is common in all. So we could divide each term by 2. So we could do it, but it's an option, correct? So we could rewrite the same equation as 16a plus 2b plus length plus 7a minus 3b. Do you understand this step? Now it is definitely a very good step to simplify a question as we move along, and this strategy is very good if you're working on a multiple choice question. Perfect. If you don't feel comfortable with it, you can apply distributive property, expand and simplify and get your answer. Perfect. So we'll continue with what we have now. So now we have to bring the like terms together. Rather, we need to isolate what length is, right? We want what length is. So let's bring them to the left side. We have 16a. The a term here is 7, so we'll say minus 7a plus 2b. The b term here is plus 3b, and that is our length. So combining the like terms, we get 16 minus 7 as what? 9, right? So we get 9a here, and when we add 2 and 3, we get 5b, and that becomes to the length, equals to length, which is our option C. Correct? So that is how we could actually solve it. I hope that makes sense. Perfect? Okay. Now, in the test, what you could do, if it is a multiple choice question and you want to do it fast, so what could be a trick here? let's talk about trick also. So trick is perimeter, is twice these values. So first, whatever this value is, find P over 2. So P over 2 will be 16a plus 2b, right? Now, that is sum of length and width. So this is length plus width. So you from here take away 7 and take away this and you get your answer. Do you see that? So what you do here is that you get 16a plus 2b, and from here you take away 7a minus 3b. You take away, and once you do that you get 5b here, right? And when you take away this you get 9a. So you get your answer straight away. Do you see that? So when you are given a perimeter and you need to find combination of length and width, remember this formula, which is half of perimeter is equal to sum of length and width. Okay, so half of perimeter is sum of length and width is your tip on solving such questions if you're working with a multiple test question set. Okay, let's move on and take question number 4. Question number 4 here is, Catherine is 2 years older than Christine. The sum of their ages is 16. How old will Christine be after 5 years? So what do we need to find? We actually need to find how old Christine be after 5 years, correct? So basically, we should write equation in terms of Christine, right? So our let statement will be let present age. Let's say let present age of Christine be C, right? So we'll define that as our variable and then write down rest of the steps. Perfect. So that is our level 1. That is understanding a problem. So sometimes we say we have a four-step solution, right? So 4-step problem solving. So in that 4-step problem solving, first is we need to understand the problem, correct? So this is our first step. We really understand the question and we know we have to find this, right? And the second step is to really model, or you can write equation, or you can say layout to solve. The third step will be to provide solution. So solve, right? And the fourth step will be check result. So sometimes we follow this 4-step method. So let's take that for solving this particular question. So what we have here is we need to find Christine's age after 5 years, and we will define a variable in terms of Christine's age. Let C be Christine's age at present. Why at present? Because the question says Catherine is 2 years older than Christine. So that means at present, right? So we can say that Catherine, let's say Catherine is K. So we say Catherine is C plus 2. So that means 2 years older. So we are seeing how we form an equation, right? So that is 2 years older. Sum of their ages is 16, right? So once you say sum of their ages is 16, it means K plus C is 16, right? So we are saying sum of their ages is 16. That means K plus C is equal to 16. But we know what K is in terms of C, right? So we'll substitute that. C plus 2 as K. So we get C plus 2 plus C is actually 16, right? So when you combine this, we get 2C plus 2 equals to 16. Take 2 on the other side, 16 minus 2, which is 14. So C is 14 divided by 2, or 7. So we got the present age, right? This is not our answer. Christine B after 5 years. This is critical. So in questions, it could be very important to, really understand what it is. After 5 years. So after 5 years, what should it be? So it will be 5 years more. So it will be 7 plus 5. Do you see that? So we get 12 years. So 12 years is option C, which is the correct option. Does it make sense? So that is how you can also check your results. You may have to read the question twice to really understand what you're trying to find. I hope that makes sense, correct? So let's move on and take the next question now. Question number 5. The total pressure on an object submerged in ocean depends on the depth of the object beneath the surface. The formula is P equals to 101 plus 10.094 D. Right? So that is the formula given to us. Shows the relationship between P, pressure in kilopascals, and the depth D in meters. Estimate the difference in pressure when the depth increases from 10 to 15. So that is what? So what do you need to find? You need to find difference in pressure when the difference in depth is from 10 to 15, which is of 5 units. You get the idea, right? Now, how are you going to solve this? Well, one method will be that you could find the pressure when the depth is 10. Then you can also find the pressure when the depth is 15. And then you do the difference of the two, right? So you could do the difference of the two and you will get your correct answer. Well, this is your method number 1. Correct? So we'll say case 1. Now, we'll actually discard this method. This may take a lot of time. Let's do case 2. Now, what should be the case 2? Case 2 is understanding of our linear equation. So when you are given a linear equation in this form, then what is the meaning of this term? And what is that? So rate of change. See, what are we interested? Difference in pressure. So rate of change of pressure with respect to depth is 10.094. Do you understand? That is what it means, right? So rate of change is per unit, 1 unit. In our case, the difference is how much? So in our case, change in depth is how much? Change in depth is from 10 to 15. That is 15 minus 10, which is 5 meters, correct? So what should be our answer? Our answer should be 10.095 times 5, correct? Which is approximately equal to 50, since these are all rounded figures, so which is approximately 50, and that is what you get. Does it make sense to you? So that is going to be our approach when we are doing a multiple choice question with a given equation. Now this is a very common question. You do get equations to solve, but if you fall into the trap of finding real values, you really waste a lot of time. But anyway, let us check our answer using the equation also. So if the pressure is 10, let's find what this is. So it will be 101 plus 10.094 times 10, right? That is equal to, in decimals, 201.94. Now if I change this value, instead of 10, if I make this as 15, then I get in decimals the value as 252.41. And if I find their difference, that is taking away 201.94, I do get in decimals 50.47. So what I get here is 50.47. So I get the same answer. You get the idea, right? So the whole concept here is many times calculator will not be allowed. Second, even if it is allowed, there is no point finding these values if you really understand what linear equations are. Since we are working on linear functions and linear equations, we expect you to have this knowledge. Perfect. So now use your knowledge to get the answers efficiently. So that is the rate of change. Multiply by change in depth and get your answer. Perfect. So that is how we are going to solve it. I hope it makes sense. Now let's move on and take the next question, which is an open response question. So we'll take a short break here. Let's enjoy some Canadian wildlife. That is the wilderness around our city. And then we'll get back to open thinking questions. I hope you enjoyed the wilderness around our area. It is really very refreshing. Now, with that open mind, let's solve the rest of the questions. Question 6 is getting fit. Kate enrolls in a fitness program. Her total cost is made up of sign-up fee and a cost per class. The table below shows information about her total cost C in dollars when she attends N classes. So the variables are already defined for us. Determine the equation for this linear relationship, right? So that is the question for us. And what are we given? We are given number of classes N and the cost for each, right? So here is our table. So if there are 12 classes, then the cost is $67, and for 14 classes, the cost is $17. So that is the information which is given to you. So you can actually pause the video, answer this question, and then look into my suggestions. Now, as soon as you see that we have a linear relationship, then what should come into your mind? So linear relationship is of the form of y equals to mx plus b, right? So that is linear relationship. Now, in our question, we are already given the variables. So we should actually write in terms of the variables given to us. Right? That is kind of important. So C is the cost when she attends N classes, right? So C cost is dependent on N. N is your independent variable. So instead of X, I'll write N, and C is dependent on number of classes attended. So it makes sense to write C equals to. Now M is the slope. You can say slope or you could say rate, right? So since we need to find the rate, or we can just keep M as such, no problems, and N as our number of classes plus B, which is the fixed cost, right? So we'll maintain the slope and the y-intercept in our equation and change the two variables, which are independent variable N and dependent variable cost, correct? Now treat this as 2 points. So what are you given here? Think like this. You're given point A, which is 1267, right? So 1267, and you're also given point B, which is 1474. Correct? So if you're given 2 points, you know how to find M and you also know how to find B. So you can use the same concepts. So the value of M will be, think like y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, right? So 74 minus 67. So 74 minus 67 divided by 14 minus 12. Correct? So you get your result immediately after you do this, correct? So you can use calculator, which is 74 minus 67 is equal to, and that is 2. So we'll divide by 2. We get 7 over 2 as our answer, right? Now it is your choice. You could write this in decimals or in fractions. Perfect. So you get the slope M. Now you'll substitute M here and say, well, the cost C is equal to 7 over 2 times n plus b. Now to find the value of b, what can you do? You have to select one of these points. So any one of them can be selected, right? So let's take 12 and 67. 67 is the cost. So we write 67 equals to 7 over 2 times 12 plus b, right? So that cancels. You get 6 here. So 67, and that is 42 plus b, or the value of b is 67 minus 42 is the value of b. So we get the value of b as equal to, from 7 it takes 12, is 2 is 5, and then from 6 it is 25. So you get the value of b also. So now you can write down your equation that the cost is actually equal to the slope, which is 7 over 2. You can write 3.5 if you want to, right? 7 over 2n plus the $25, correct? So that becomes your equation. Determine the equation for this linear relation. Does make sense to you? So that is how you actually do it, right? So if you want to write, you could also write this as, we'll write it here, c equals to 3.5n plus 25. That means $25 is the fixed cost, and for each class it is $3.50, right? $3.50. Perfect. So that is how you're going to solve your question. Now in a multiple choice question, what you could do? Well, we need to just find the difference between the two, right? So here, when you find the difference, you get 7, right? And here, what is the difference? It is for 2, right? So 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So you get your rate, correct? So that is how you get your rate. And then you can find the value of b by substituting any one value. So it's the same thing, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I hope that helps. Now let's take up the next question, which is about wages and increments. Question number 7. Workers at a shipping yard get the same raise each year. Frank, who has been working at a shipping yard for 7 years, earns $17.85 per hour. Justy, who has been working at a shipping yard for 1 year, earns $14.25 per hour. Assume that all join at the same time. Now, these are the questions related to it. Question A is, find the equation of the line in W equals to mn plus b form relating the hourly wage W and the number of years worked n. Mary has been working at the shipping yard for 9 years. Determine her hourly wage. You can actually pause the video now, answer, and then look into my suggestions. All right. So in this question, our approach is going to be similar to what it was in the previous question. So as far as the Frank is concerned, Frank, who has been working at the shipping yard for 7 years, so that is the time duration, and that is the rate, which is 17.85, right? So we get a coordinate point for Frank. Similarly, Jasdeep, so J, the coordinate point is 1 year and 14.25. So we get 2 points. Once you get 2 points, you can say, well, now the slope m is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so we get 14.25 minus 17.85 over 1 minus 7. And now we'll use the calculator to find m. Perfect. So that is a negative number here, but this is denominator is also negative. So we get a positive answer, right? So we get 14.25 minus 17.85 equals 2, which is a negative number, divided by, within brackets, 1 minus 7, right? So that will be negative 6. And so we get our answer as 3 over 5. If you want, you can write this as a decimal number of 0.6, right? That is your choice. So anyway, you get the rate. So we got the value of m. Now how do we get b? So the wages given to us is this m, which is 0.6 times n plus b. To find the value of b, right? So what is their starting salary or wages, we should use one of these points. So let's use 7 and 17.85. So 17.85 is our wages. 0.6 times 7 years plus B. So the value of B can be found as 17.85 minus 0.6 times 7. So let's use our calculator. So we already, okay, we'll do it again. So we have 17.85 minus 0.6 times 7 equals to, in decimals. So we have 13.65 here, right? So B is 13.65. So we get the first answer, which is wages W is equal to M, which is 0.6, N plus starting 13.65. Correct? So that is the first answer. Part B is Mary has been working at the shipping yard for 9 years. So N is 9 for Mary, right? So in this particular case, we know N equals to 9. So we'll substitute 9 and find the wages. So here, so W, wages for Mary, will be 0.6 times 9 plus 13.65. So that is how you can use your equations to find other values. Times 9 plus 13.65 equals to what? It is in decimals 1905, right? So we get 19.05, right? So in dollars. So that is her wages. So the answer here is in dollars 1905. Is it okay? So you can now see for yourself that it is important to check your result, right? So 7 years, right? So 7 years, it is 1785. Now plus 2, 9 means what? Plus 2, right? So that means 2 times 3.5, because the rate is 2 times 3 over 5, which is 0.6. So 2.2 times 0.6. You could add that to this once you know the rate, right? So that is 1.2. So when you add 1.2, what do you get? You get 1905, which is the correct answer. So that could be a check on this particular question. I hope it makes sense. So you need to see the problem, understand, and then solve it. I hope it makes sense. Question number 8, Pythagorean application. In a right triangle, the shortest side is a third of the length of the second shortest side. The area of the triangle is 216 units square. Find the length of the hypotenuse. So let's try to understand the question here, right? So let's first sketch a triangle, which is a right triangle. The two short sides are also called legs, and then the longest is the hypotenuse. Now what are we saying here? We are saying that the one side is 1/3 of the other, right? So that is to say, you could also define variables like this. If this is, let's say, x, right, then this becomes x over 3, right? So we say the shortest side is third length of the second shortest. Now if you do that, then we will have to work with fractions. You get an idea. So what can we do? Well, we should avoid such variables, right? I could write like this also. That is to say, I could say that this side, let it be y, right? Then this side will be 3 times y. Now again, it is the same relation. Y is 1/3 of 3y. Does it make sense to you? Perfect. Y is 1/3 of 3y. So we get our relation, right? And we need to find what this is, which will be square root of y square plus 3y whole square. So when you do this square root, don't forget to multiply by 3, and that is what we need to find. So I hope now the concept is clear, right? So now let's answer the question. So we need to find the side length. We know area is half of base times height, which in our case will be 216 equals to half of base is 3y and height is y, correct? So that gives you that 216 is 3 over 2 of y square, So we could cross multiply. So we get 216 times 2 over 3 equals to y squared. This could be simplified, right? So 3 times 7 and 2. So what we get here is 144 equals to y squared, or y is equal to square root of 144, which you know is 12. Well, calculator is allowed, so you can use your calculator to find this answer. So we know y is 12. Now we need to find the hypotenuse. So 12 really means that I could write this side as 12 now, right? And the other one is 3 times, which is 36. So we know these two sides are 12 and 36. So what is the hypotenuse? So for me, hypotenuse will be equal to square root of, we can write 12 square plus 36 square, since we know what these sides are. So let's use our calculator and find the answer. So we have square root of 12 square plus 36 square, and that is equal to 12 square root 10. The answers are rounded, right? So we'll just take decimal equivalent, and that gives you 37.9. So the answer is 38, right? So it could be rounded to 38 units, which is option C, right? Does make sense to you. So 38 units is our answer. So I hope you understand this strategy involved. It is very critical to define the variables correctly so that you can easily get to your solution. Perfect. Question number 9. Anil is looking to host an event at a banquet hall for family and friends. Ocean View charges $30 a person plus $1,000. Forest Resort charges $40 a person plus $550. If Anil has budget of $3,000 for the event, then which banquet hall can host the most number of people? Well, that is a simpler question since we know the budget, right? The total amount is known to us. So we're talking about comparing the two things. One is at Ocean View, so it's the cost as Ocean View. The other one is cost as Forest Resort. So now let's look into the Ocean View cost first. So it says that this cost is equal to, at Ocean View, is equal to $30 per person. So 30 gets multiplied by the number of persons plus $1,000 is fixed. For the forest, so the cost at this place, it is $40 a person. So 40 gets multiplied with person and we add 550, correct? Since the budget is only 3,000, we have to find what the value of n is. So we'll write 3,000 for the total cost and solve for n. Perfect? So that is what we are going to do. So it is 3,000 minus 1,000 equals to 30n, which is 2,000 divided by 30. That gives you n, right? So you get your answer, approximately 70 people, right? Okay. So you could say this as, it goes 6 times 18, then 66 people. Perfect. So that is how you get the first answer. The other one here is, we know this is 3,000, that is our limit, equals to 40n plus 550. So we do 3,000 minus 550, right? Divide this by 40. We did all this here, equals to n. You can use your calculator if you want to. 3,000, it is allowed, right? So for these questions which I have designed, it is allowed. Divide by 40 and it is equal to approximately 61. So we'll just leave it to 61. Persons will be a round number. So which one is greater number? Well, this is greater. So the selection is the first one, correct? Since 66 is greater than 61. Perfect. So that is how you could actually solve this question. You need to just find out the value of n, nothing else. So equations are straightforward, linear equations. Perfect. Now here is the last question for us. It's a total reward question. At the end we all need, right, rewards. Okay. Sam works as a snack vendor at the Hershey's Center during the basketball games. He earns $11.50 per hour plus 15 cents for each bag of popcorn he sells and 20 cents for each drink bottle he sells. if Sam earns a total of $44.50 for working at a 3-hour basketball game while selling 24 bags of popcorns, then how many drink bottles does he sell? So there are a lot of parameters in this question, right? So we need to figure out what is happening. Well, he is definitely enjoying the game and also earning, and that is the total reward, correct? So let's work out the earnings. We say E is the earning, okay? That is the earning. Now let's read. He earns so many dollars per hour. So we'll write 11.50 per hour. Let's say T is hourly rate, right? So it is times T plus 0.15 for each bag of popcorn. Let's write P for popcorn, okay? He sells and 20 cents for each bottle he sells, right? B for bottle, right? If Sam earns total of $44.50, that means the earning is $44.50 for working at a 3-hour game. So T is 3. See how we read and fill in the values? While selling 24 bags of popcorn, P is 24. Then how many drink bottles does he sell? We have to find B. That is the only unknown left. Do you see that now? So it becomes simple. So a question may be very complicated, so many things within it, but if you logically read, you can actually form a very simple equation and solve it. That is all about linear equations, right? Simplicity is the beauty here. Perfect. So that is how you should be doing it. And now what we just need our calculator to work with. And okay, so what I will do here is bring all these terms together. So we get 44.50. We'll take away 11.5 times 3 from it. We'll also take away 0.5 times 24 from it. And then we are dividing all this by 0.20 to get the value of B, correct? So I have cut down on few steps. By now I hope that is absolutely clear to you, right? So anyway, you can do one by one and get your answer. Let us now see what is this value. So we have 44.5, take away 11.5 times 3, take away 0.15 times 24. So say equal to, and then divide by 0.2. Otherwise use brackets. So we get 32 as our answer, and that is also one of the choices. So I think we are done. Okay, that's great. So that is how you could actually solve all these questions based on linear functions and linear equations. I hope you find them rewarding and useful. Feel free to write your comment, share your views, and I'm sure this set of videos will be very helpful for students applying for universities, appearing for SAT or CGSE or somewhere, right? And even in their regular curriculum. Feel free to write your comment, share your views. If you really like and subscribe to my videos, that would be great. Thank you and all the best.